We got a bowl game this weekend, and no, it's not Division One, but it's Division Two, as we have Hillsdale taking on Upper Iowa in the Albanese Candy Bowl taking place on Saturday at the Brickyard Stadium in Indiana. To be completely honest with you, I didn't know there was very many bowl games. I thought there was just the D2 playoffs, have the D2 National Championship, but we have the Albanese Candy Bowl, and it's going to be a little interesting matchup because we have Hillsdale, who is 6-5 currently to end the season, playing in this game against Upper Iowa, who is 8-3. Hillsdale is really coming off of a pretty strong end to the season. They got a couple wins against Ohio Dominican. They had a couple wins against a team in Walsh. This was just a pretty good end to the season. They won 4 straight games. Now, these teams that they won, Walsh, I think, is a pretty good team. But then you look at Lake Erie, you look at Thomas More, Ohio Dominican. Maybe not the top of the GMAC, but these are wins that this team needed to have. And these are wins that really obviously build momentum into a matchup like this. And this is a matchup with an Upper Iowa team who's had a pretty solid year for the most part. They actually end up being a GLIAC team in Michigan Tech in Week 3, 21-14. They also, early to start the season, they played against Drake, which they got absolutely dominated, but that kind of makes sense. But they've had a pretty solid season this year. They've been kind of gaining a little bit of momentum towards the end of the season. And they played a really tough Indianapolis team, lost by only 7, an Indianapolis team that ended up making the D2 playoffs. So there's a lot to really build off of, and there's a lot of interest in this game, to be completely honest with you. And these are two teams that if you look on paper, you look at what Upper Iowa has done this year, especially offensively. This is an offense that has been able to put up points, and I think that's going to be a real difference maker in this one, because if this is a low scoring game, I think that's obviously going to play in favor of Hillsdale. I think Hillsdale is going to want to have this a pretty low scoring game, because this is an Hillsdale offense that if you look at comparatively to Upper Iowa, doesn't average as many points, only averages a little less than 24 points. So if you have an offense that doesn't average a ton of points compared to the other team, you're obviously going to want to make sure it's going to be a pretty low-scoring game, and this is an offense that is pretty well balanced for Upper Iowa. It's a little bit more pass-heavy, but this is still an offense that ran for over 2,000 yards on the ground. They've averaged 5.5 yards per carry, going up against a Hillsdale defense that has been pretty good at stopping the run. If you look at just the way that Hillsdale has successfully done the last couple of weeks, is obviously stopping the run, doing enough offensively to be able to win, and then passing the ball. I think this is an Upper Iowa team that has shown a little bit of a capability of doing so. They have their starting quarterback who isn't only throwing the ball, which he has a 71% completion rate, he can run the ball a little bit, and Darrell Overstreet, he's the third leading rusher of this Upper Iowa team, has over 300 yards on the ground on the year, only has 7 interceptions, 21 touchdowns, over 2,400 yards throwing the ball. So if you look at just the total amount of offense, almost 2,800 yards of offense just by Darrell alone. I think that obviously is going to really bring a different approach. Now, this is a Hillsdale team that does have a quarterback that has shown the ability to use his legs as well. Colin McKernan, he's the second leading rusher for Hillsdale, has over 400 yards on the ground. And if you look at passing the ball, he's a guy that's 60% through the air, but almost 2,000 yards. So he's a guy who has almost 2,300 total yards on the year by himself. So both of these teams have great quarterback play. Both of these teams have quarterbacks that they can use their legs, that they can really truly be weapons more than just passing the ball. And then if you look at the overall offense, the wide receivers, the running backs, I think if you look at just what Upper Iowa has, especially at the wide receiver position, just catching the ball, I think Upper Iowa obviously has a go-to guy in Monte Morrow. He has over 900 yards this year. He has 12 touchdowns. He's been the go-to guy for Upper Iowa. If you look at Hillsdale, I think they do have an upper guy in Shea Rudy, but if you look at just him and Tut Carico, Hillsdale has more guys that are really close together that kind of like maybe they don't have one go-to guy, but they have guys that have contributed throughout this season, especially at the tight end position as well. But it's really Shea and Tara kind of like the two main guys for Hillsdale at the wide receiver position. You also have a couple of guys. I mentioned Monte. Eddie Burgess is one guy from Upper Iowa. Angelio Butts is another guy for Upper Iowa. Like, they just have multiple guys, and this is a secondary for Hillsdale that even though they have multiple guys, if you look at what this defense has done this year, they've turned over the other team quite a bit. One guy that's done a really good job of that this year is Colin Morrow, 3 interceptions this year. I also do have to shout out Ryan Nix, 1 interception this year. They have 2 DBs and the top 4 tacklers on this team. This is a secondary that is not afraid to go up and hit someone, not afraid to tackle someone, but they also have the capability of picking off the other team and forcing a mistake. Now, obviously, if you look at just what Upper Iowa has done this year, they haven't had a ton of turnovers, especially at the quarterback position. They basically have a 3-to-1 ratio with Darrell Overstreet, but when you have a secondary that has been successful forcing turnovers, if you can get your hands on the ball, this is going to be a Hillsdale defense that can turn you over. Like I was also mentioning, Hillsdale really good against the run for the most part. They do have a guy in Jane Gordon for Upper Iowa. He's the main running back for this Upper Iowa team. They do kind of a 1-2 punch a little bit. I think Damian Head Jr. is the 2 in that. It's kind of those 2 guys that are truly carrying the ball the most part. They're pretty close when it comes to attempts. One has 91 attempts, the other has 106. So I think it kind of goes back and forth now. Obviously, that's going to be really difficult because then you can sub them in and out. That's going to make the defensive line a little bit more tired. Now, you do have a guy in Jacob Vance as the leading tackler on this year that he has 1 interception as well. He's been really, really good, not only against the run, but also in pass coverage as well. He's going to be a guy that's really going to be a key for this defense, especially because he is basically their main guy at the linebacker position. He's basically the leader of this team, it seems like, the most part. He's just been great this year. He has over 50, 60 tackles this year. He's a guy that just flies around. He's a guy that's going to be a difference maker when it comes to this Hillsdale defense in this one. Obviously, we talked a little bit about Upper Iowa offensively. I do want to talk a little bit about Hillsdale offensively as well, kind of flip things a little bit. I've already mentioned Colin McCurney. He's been really good this year. 18 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. Not the 3-to-1 ratio that Darrell has, but he doesn't have to have that. Like, this is an offense that has a guy in Ben Negoshu who's been able to run the ball effectively. This is an offense, while they don't score a ton of points, like I mentioned at the beginning, only about a little less than 24 points. This is an offense that has been better recently. They've been able to score. This is a defense that have been able to give Hillsdale opportunities throughout a game. This is not going to be an easy game at all for Hillsdale. This is going to be a really tough Upper Iowa team. They're going to come prepared. They've been really good this year. They've beat good teams. With that being said, I do think there's something about going into a game like this on a 4-game win streak. I know that Upper Iowa obviously had a difficult loss against Indianapolis. That shows you just how far they've come. I think this Hillsdale team has been playing much better. Even before that, they had a couple really close games against some really good teams. I think this is a game that Hillsdale will win. I think just kind of playing their style, I think they're going to be able to kind of keep it a low-scoring game. And even if they don't, I think this offense has shown enough recently that they are going to be able to put up points. So I'm going to have Hillsdale in this one. I think they end up getting the win, going 7-5 on the season, ending with a bowl win. But let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? It will be a fun game. I'll obviously recap the game once it happens, but good luck to both teams. Good luck especially to Hillsdale as well. And make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. This will probably be the second last Hillsdale episode, but obviously once football comes around next year, I'll talk more about them. But thank you for everyone's support, and please make sure to tune into the recap as well.